Hey, welcome back. So, Bóinne. So in the Mesolithic, or Middle Stone Age, everyone was hunter-gatherers, they moved around a lot, and they hunted for food. Until about 4000 BC, when we enter the Neolithic, or New Stone Age, and everyone becomes farmers. They're like, we're gonna stop moving around so much. And during this time, they start building stuff, because they're not moving around, so they build stuff. And all over northwestern Europe, everyone starts building passage tombs because they're the newest trend. In Ireland alone, there's 1,500 tombs, 40 of which are passage tombs. What are passage tombs? They're places of worship for the sun or dead people. Not very clear. Again, this is about 5 to 6,000 years ago. But the basic layout is it's circular in shape. There's an inner chamber and a passageway that leads to the inner chamber. In the inner chamber are the remains of the dead. These are sometimes referred to as Stone Age cathedrals, which I think is a really fancy name. So Bóinne. Bóinne means mansion or palace of the Bóinne. I was taught that Brú meant hostel, but I guess not in this situation. Anyway, around 3200 BC, in County Meath, between Slane and Drogheda, along the River Bóinne, the construction of Bóinne begins. Bóinne is made up of Knowth, Dowth, and Newgrange, all of which are passage tombs. They are about 80 meters long and wide and 10 meters tall, and they're mounds of earth, basically ringed by 250 curbstones. But the coolest one is definitely Newgrange. I think that's unanimously agreed. So Newgrange was built 500 years before Stonehenge and about 1,000 years before the pyramids. It uses large stones from Clarhead and white quartz from the Wicklow Mountains, which are 80 kilometers away. So this is a big deal. They'd float the stones up the river and then roll them up the hills to the passage tombs. And 200,000 tons of small stones were used in its construction. The roof was made using corbelling, which is very interesting because I was led to believe that corbelling was invented during the Renaissance. And the roof of Newgrange remains watertight even 5,000 years later, so that's pretty cool. So in the inner chamber, there are cremated and non-cremated human bones, along with stone artifacts and Roman coins, which date to about 300 AD and were likely acquired through trading, as Rome never really set foot in Ireland. Anyway, 1,000 years after the construction of Newgrange, a 100-meter long ring of wooden posts was put around it, and then again in the Bronze Age, a circle of standing stones was placed around Newgrange. Then, in 1699, after the Battle of the Bóinne, the entrance to Newgrange was uncovered. However, it wasn't until 1962 when excavation began, led by Professor M.J. O'Kelly. To be clear, the interior of Newgrange was intact. It was the exterior that needed excavating. It was buried. In 1963, he discovered the roof box. But it wasn't until 1967 when its purpose was discovered. At dawn on the winter solstice, for about 17 minutes, the sun would shine through the roof box, through the 19-meter-long passageway, and illuminate the inner chamber. Why? We don't know. I heard from one of my teachers that it was the sun collecting the souls of the dead to bring to the afterlife. It could also be an analogy for that time the Dagda had an affair with Bóinne, goddess of the Bóinne. Anyway, the excavation of Newgrange was completed in 1975. There's also a lot of myths around Newgrange, like I just said about the Dagda. The Dagda had an affair with Bóinne, and that led to the birth of Angus Og. He then overthrows his stepfather and takes control of Bóinne, and after Dermot is killed by that boar, and also kind of by Fionn McCool, he brings his body to Bóinne to rest. And that's the end, so I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye, have a nice day, see ya.